How is marketing a movie different from distributing a movie?
So there are two sides of the same coin. So distribution is how an audience engages with a film in terms of watching it either in a community screening at a festival, online, or even on a DVD, which some people still do. And then marketing is what makes someone want to see the film. Because it doesn't matter if the film is available on multiple platforms. You can put a film up on YouTube and it's available. But if no one is incentivized or you don't have a way to motivate people to watch that content, it doesn't really matter.
What are some simple and easy ways for a filmmaker to market their movie?
I don't think anything is that simple or easy, but the path to simple or easy, in a sense, is understanding what your goals are so that everything is directed towards achieving those goals. Because if you don't do that, you're headed to a path of hardship because you'll be trying a lot of different things, and some of them might work and some of them might not achieve your goal. You're already going to be, even understanding your goal, you're going to be in a situation where some things work and some things don't work. But if you're trying 5 times more because you have no direction, then that's a problem. So, I just don't think I think the best answer to this question is, this is why I came up with the concept of the new 50-50, is that distributing and marketing your film is as much energy, time, and money as creating your film. And while that's not a hard and fast rule, so maybe it's going to be 30-70 or 60-40 or 80-20, you have to understand that connecting a film to an audience is going to take some resources, time, money, whatever resources. And the flip side of your question is, what are there simple and easy ways to make a film? And I would say generally not a good one. And while there are certain new tactics and tactics that are, more tried and true, and some of them are easier than others, I would be probably remiss to say or identify anything that's simple. And as you can see, as I parse this all out, the reason I parse these things out and I talk in this very specific language is because it does take a lot of thought and planning to do it correctly. And I don't want to say that there's any kind of easy solution. That's not to say that there aren't solutions, and that's going back to what we spoke about at the very beginning. I do feel there's a path for every film, and I'm optimistic about that. But the fact that I created a 6-month distribution intensive, and that it's 6 months, indicates that it's not that easy and simple, and that there's a lot to understand about the world of distribution and marketing in order to make it successful for yourself. And I've thought about it because it's 6 months is a long time to, be in a workshop with other people and me doing presentations or bringing experts in. But every time I try to think about cutting it back to 4 months, it's well, then we're not going to cover this, and we're not going to cover this, and we're not going to cover this, and we're not going to cover this, which to me are all essential aspects of creating a distribution and marketing path for your film.
So the notion of the PMD back in 2010, when Think Outside the Box Office was released, I believe.
Yeah.
Is it still relevant, or actually more relevant now than ever before?
I think it's still and more. I think it's the same. I've actually started calling when I'm running an entire campaign, I actually ask for that credit now, because that's what I'm doing. And because you might say that it's more relevant now because the landscape is a bit more broken than it used to be. But again, I'll just and maybe I'm a broken record, for most films, the landscape has been broken for 15 years and have needed someone like that on your team to shepherd the distribution and marketing for this past 15 years. And whether you bring on someone outside like me or someone else, or whether you're doing it internally within your own team, someone has to be responsible for that process.
What are some mistakes you see filmmakers make regarding marketing their films?
Well, I think the biggest mistake would be not having a plan, not understanding what your goal is, not knowing who your audience is, not having a plan, not understanding that when you're in festivals, you're in distribution, and not preparing and understanding. Probably the biggest mistake is not understanding that most likely you're going to be, or you or your film team is going to be responsible for distribution and marketing. That there is no, there are a few golden rings out there. There are a few white knights, whatever metaphor. Seem like they all come from Western fairy tales. Unfortunately, I'm realizing, oh my God, all these metaphors I'm using are from, the Western canon. So my apologies for that. But there are a few of those. But when you look at 50,000 films made a year, and there's a few of those, you're looking at 49,990 needing to do something else. So.
What's the time frame for how long you should market a film?
I think you should plan on a year. And although I talk to Ted Hope about these things a lot, and he's now thinking or saying a year for festivals, and then to develop your audience through the festival circuit, and then another year for release to continue engaging audiences and to extend or bring that release beyond the festivals. But that's for a very specific festival-oriented film. Not all films, as we talked about earlier, are festival films. But what his point is, and I would agree, is that audience development takes some time. And so you can shorten that by starting your audience development before you finish your film, and which I do advocate for. And so I would say somewhere, let's to make it easy, and so that I don't parse this out too much and extend this interview too long, somewhere between a year and 2 years, generally. It's rare that it's less than that.
Okay, so if you've been accepted into a festival and you will play on July 1st, when are you starting your marketing?
So you're playing on, well, I think you should be starting your marketing in post-production, to be honest, that you should be outreaching. So say if you're a documentary or you have a fiction film that has certain identifiable audiences that there are organizations organized around, you should be doing that no later than post, connecting with those audiences. And some films start in pre-production, connecting with those audiences. And there's a case study that's on my newsletter page of my website about a film called No Small Matter. And it's a 2-part newsletter blog. And it talks about their process of how they engaged with their audience from a very early stage. So what was your question again?
Well, so then I think you answered it then. So then forget about the festival dates. Before you even submit to festivals, you should already be marketing.
Engaging your
that answered it.
Yes, I would say so. But you can start at the festival or in advance of festivals. I mean, if you haven't done it then you're like working in a hurry, and then you can do a certain amount before the festival and then plan that you're going to do more after the festival. I mean, it's not like what I'm saying, even though I advise filmmakers to start earlier, if you haven't, you can still do things. It's not that you will have to adjust, and your life cycle is probably going to be longer than that. So, and then, it's the good, fast, cheap. You get 2. So if you want something good and fast, you're going to pay for it. So you can shorten that time period by throwing money at certain things. But, we're talking to mostly independent filmmakers who don't have those huge resources. And so, that's why time is on your side.